Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 horrifying facts you didn't know about samurai. Number 10. They tested swords by cutting people in half.
In a nutshell, testing a sword involved testing the sharpness and quality of a blade on a straw mat, something you've no doubt seen replicated by innumerable overweight guys wearing fedoras on YouTube. Sometimes though, when the client purchasing the sword was particularly wealthy or of high enough social standing, the sword would be tested on a live, often screaming, condemned criminal. Depending on the severity of the crime, the committed could lose a limb or be cut completely in half.
Number 9. Samurai randomly murdered people for fun.
During the tumultuous Sengoku period of Japanese history, there was an informal practice among samurai known as chushugiri, which roughly translates to crossroads killing. Invariably undertaken by samurai who'd recently purchased a new weapon or mastered a new technique for turning someone's bowels inside out, the practice involved walking around at night testing the new weapon or technique on the first person they found. In the rare event that a samurai was caught cutting down an innocent civilian, they could always claim they were invoking their right to.
Number 8. They murdered people they thought insulted them.
Kirisute Gomen was a basic right afforded to samurai that allowed them to immediately kill anyone of a lower class, including other samurai if they felt insulted, with a punishing sword-assisted backhand. The only conditions were that 1. They had to do so immediately after the perceived insult occurred, and 2. There had to be a witness. Luckily, a samurai could use his own servant as a witness, meaning it was possible for a samurai to basically kill anyone he felt like without reprieve, just because society said they were important enough to get away with it.
Number 7. Common women had to pay to marry them.
Marriage in the age of samurai was an unusual thing because what exactly it entailed depended on the class of the woman a given samurai wanted to wed. Today we're going to focus on what happened when women from the lower classes wanted to get themselves some of that sweet samurai loving though, because it's hilarious. In short, common women wanting to marry samurai had to pay them for the privilege of becoming what amounted to a servant. That last part isn't hyperbole either. It's noted that one of the most valuable traits in samurai wives was obedience, and that they were basically expected to do everything for their husband, including making themselves available for sex 24/7.
Number 6. Wives were expected to kill themselves if their husband messed up.
Seppuku, for the lucky few of you who've managed to make it this far on the internet without running into those people who are oddly obsessed with Japan, was a form of ritual suicide practiced by samurai when they really messed up. Usually it was done as a way to rob an enemy of the satisfaction of killing them. To commit seppuku, a samurai would slice open his own stomach with a small blade before his head was ceremoniously cut off by a trusted associate. But here's where things get, well, weird. You see, when a samurai screwed up so badly that he felt he needed to commit seppuku to die with at least a shred of honor intact, his wife was expected to kill herself too.
Number 5. Bushido and how it killed thousands during World War II.
Bushido is generally described as being a strict code followed by samurai that stressed the importance of honor and self-sacrifice. In reality though, Bushido was more of a nebulous group of rules that samurai kind of followed when they felt like it. This didn't stop the Japanese government reviving the idea of Bushido during World War II as a way of convincing conscripts to die in the most explodey screw-you way possible. While it's not necessarily the fault of samurai that years later the government would use them as a shining example of why sometimes killing yourself could be awesome if you did it in a metal enough way, it is their fault for being so cool. Everyone was all like, yeah, I'll crash a plane into a battleship if it's what a samurai would have done.
Number 4. They used to shoot dogs with arrows for sport.
Though samurai are synonymous with the katana, samurai placed a great deal of emphasis in learning how to properly use a bow, so much so that they trained by chasing dogs on horseback and shooting them with arrows. Over time, the exercise became popular enough that samurai and Japanese nobles began doing it for fun, competing against one another to see who could preemptively annoy Peter the most. Just so this entry isn't totally depressing, we should mention that the arrows used were sometimes padded so that the dog wasn't killed, but this was less out of concern for the dog's well-being, and more so that the samurai shooting at them didn't have to go out and buy more if they were really good at it.
Number 3. They used to have lots of sex with teenage boys.
It may surprise you to learn that becoming a samurai involved having a surprising amount of sex with an old creepy man. To explain, samurai training young boys in the ways of combat were allowed to take their apprentice as a lover until they became an adult as part of a brotherhood contract. Though it's noted that the samurai could only do this with the boy's express permission, anyone with a basic understanding of how consent works should be able to see how gross this is.
Number 2. They refused to reintegrate into society because they felt they were above working.
The idea of Ronin, masterless samurai who become wandering swords for hire, has become almost as romanticized as the idea of the samurai itself, and as such, we felt like we should call them out for being awful people too. In short, if a samurai lost his master or otherwise dishonored himself, he'd become a Ronin, which was roughly analogous with being a hobo. Despite being considered one of the lowest rungs of society, Ronin still mostly acted like samurai, in that they treated everyone like crap and refused to work like normal people, considering it to be beneath them. Due to this, many Ronin became bodyguards, mercenaries, and criminals, and earned their keep killing or robbing people for money.
Number 1. The Kabukimono.
Like Ronin, Kabukimono were often masterless samurai who decided that being alive was a preferable alternative to letting someone cut their head off with a big sword. Unlike Ronin though, they celebrated their new lease on life by being utterly fabulous. The Kabukimono would dress in wildly flamboyant outfits in the most garish colors possible. When such an outfit couldn't be found, the Kabukimono would settle for women's clothing. Kabukimono, as samurai with no masters and thus no responsibilities, spend most of their time actively making the world a worse place, engaging in activities that would make Master Betty proud, like beating random people in the street or fleeing from restaurants without paying.
So I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please do give us a like below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, over there on the right are a couple of other videos you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.